to see so many of you today, so many beautiful smiles looking at me at the screen today. I hope you're all well. The In Conversation series is a program undertaken to keep you guys, our South Australian tourism industry and stakeholders, engaged and informed as we make our way through the COVID-19 crisis and into recovery. Good morning to you all. Today is Tuesday, the 24th of November, 2020. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kathy Ramsey, the Partnership Manager here at the Tourism Industry Council of South Australia, the peak industry body. I'll introduce our speaker in a moment, but I just have a few housekeeping matters. It's just important to run through to keep the session running smoothly today. We just ask everybody to keep their microphone on mute. Use the chat functions for any questions and comments. We'll endeavour to work through the session and work through your questions as we go through the session today, allowing plenty of time for Q&A at the end. We really like to keep these sessions interactive, so we really welcome your engagement through the chat function. So, the purpose of today's session is really to educate our community about QR codes. After the events that have unfolded in the past week, we understand the government is going to be releasing a QR contact tracing platform that could be mandatory for some, if not all, businesses in our industry. Whilst they're still working through the detail, and we'll share more information on this as it's released, I think it's really important in the meantime for us to understand more about this technology. And so on that, I'm really pleased to have Ezequiel from RapidGo with us today to share his knowledge and enlighten us all about the world of QR codes and this technology. Welcome, Ezequiel.
Kathy, thank you very, very much. And I have to say, it's absolutely amazing to see all of you in front of me. I was talking to Kathy before the meeting, and it's incredible how technology is helping us to connect in such a simple way. If this would have happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the story would have been completely different. Kathy, I was really excited about this session. Even though it's a little bit different to what we normally do, I had the opportunity to see one of your In Conversation sessions from previous months, and I recall seeing you with a glass of wine. So I thought, you know what? This is my type of meetings. I need to go there and have my glass of wine. But then I realized that my boss was going to be in the meeting, so maybe not appropriate. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're right, Ezequiel. Earlier today, we definitely enjoyed a Friday night knockoff drink together, our community. I've got some great memories of that. And talking about our community, I suppose, Ezequiel, you're the new kid on the block. We've got this beautiful tourism community here, which you're new to today. Tell us a bit more about yourself.
Absolutely. And Kathy, before I get there, I actually wanted to say that I love the format of your In Conversation session. So we don't want to change that. So the aim of the session today, as you mentioned, is just to provide you with a little bit of information about QR codes and contact tracing. I believe in the last 6 months, we have been hearing a lot of contact tracing, QR codes, and Trump. Maybe we'll leave Trump aside, but we will talk about contact tracing, what is it, how relevant it is to us, and QR codes. And then again, I know that most of us would have used QR codes in the past, knowing that we're using them or not. So we're going to unpack that a little bit. Now, even though we want to keep this as organic and light and interactive as possible, I do have a little bit of a structure for the session, Kathy. So if it's okay with all of you, what I'll do is share my screen so you can see a couple of things that I want to share with you throughout the presentation. So bear with us. Maybe not that one. Let's go with this one. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Wonderful. So first of all, Kathy, and just to give everybody a little bit of an idea as to what are we going to be talking about and how, the structure of the meeting will see us talking about me. Love talking about me. So we'll spend a couple of minutes in that. We then talk about 2020, what a year it's been, and the reason why we're talking so much about contact tracing and QR codes. And very quickly, we'll move on to content. So what is contact tracing? Why is it so relevant to each one of our businesses and the state, let alone the country and the world? And then we'll go into Rapid Global. Why is it that we are here? Why is it that we're talking to you about QR codes? So first of all, let's move on to Ezequiel, or as everybody knows me, easy. I was just saying as a joke earlier today that my name is Ezequiel, and as you would have noticed by now, I've got a little bit of an accent. So I came to this beautiful part of the world 13 years ago, almost 14 years ago, early next year. And best decision of my life, I have to say. Moved with my wife and my 2 kids, and ever since it's been a fantastic experience. But I do have my links to the tourism industry, not only as part of Australia and more specifically South Australia, but even before. I graduated from university from a business degree, business course, and it had specific content about tourism. I went to work for American Airlines for 10 years, and of course, as part of my stint with American Airlines, I did a little bit of everything, including being the sales manager for a couple of different countries in South America and Central America. And of course, I was really exposed to the tourism industry in different parts of the world. Then I moved to this beautiful part of the world, and I worked for a travel agency. And I myself had a little wine tour companies. I had that for 3 years, and that took me to such wonderful places. For the most part, of course, as you would imagine, the Adelaide Hills, McLaren Vale, and the Barossa Valley. But I, even though I wasn't born here, believe me, my heart is within this beautiful, beautiful state we have. I started working.
Lovely, Easy. So whilst you're new to us today, you actually sound like you've been a long time friend.
Absolutely, and you know what? I would love to know a little bit more about you guys and pay you a visit in your businesses. I really, I have explored this state. I'm sure that there are places that I have not visited yet, but I'm really curious when it comes to learning what we have to offer. So yeah, look forward to go to your places, to your businesses at some point in time. Now, you would say, well, how somebody that is so linked to the tourism industry is going to talk to us about technology. In 2011, I transitioned from tourism into technology. I work for a large telecommunication company. I'm not going to say the name because everybody's going to say, what about my bill and what's happening with this? But and then I move across to Rapid Global in 2016 and have been with Rapid ever since. So almost 5 years in there. Now, of course, to get into content, it is very difficult to not to remember what this year has brought to us. So I'm sure that we might not remember 1997 or 2002 and what happened, but we will not forget for sure what's happened in 2020. This year started, unfortunately, with the bushfires, and the bushfires had a massive impact, economic impact in the state, but in the tourism industry very specifically. And if we think about the Adelaide Hills and Kangaroo Island and how impacted those areas where, of course, it was a little bit of a difficult start of the year. And it was immediately followed by COVID. And COVID, different to the bushfires, didn't move away as quickly as the bushfires did. We recovered from the bushfires quite okay. We're still dealing with COVID. And of course, as part of COVID, we learned really quickly, and Australia is sort of leading the world in keeping COVID to a certain extent in a way that is not having the impact that is having in other parts of the world. So we're leading the world in that regards. But we very quickly learned that almost the only way to do that was social distancing. So very quickly we closed our borders, very quickly to the international market. Of course, immediately that had an impact on the customers that we receive. And then we went to the extent to close our borders nationally. And we have seen a lot of that happening between different states, including South Australia. And unfortunately, more recently, we had the Victorian borders closed, and I think they have reopened today or yesterday. But we are navigating through that. But the lesson out of that, of course, was, well, we have had to adapt very, very quickly to different situations, and our businesses have had to evolve to meet those challenges, to meet the customers' demand under those big challenges. Now, when we think about Rapid Global, we are very proudly a South Aussie company. So we are head offices in Franklin Street in Adelaide City. So we were impacted as every other business was in the state. I have to say very proudly that we made the transition to working from the office to working from home very, very quickly. And that is sort of a reflection of how we operate, and even that gives away a little bit of our history and how we were founded, or the reasons why we got to be where we are today. And of course, that includes the purpose of our meeting today, which is to talk about technology to assist you with managing perhaps risk, and more specifically, the COVID situation. I want to pause for a minute just to let you know, Kathy mentioned that towards the end we'll allow for a little bit of time for questions and whatnot. If for whatever reason there is something pressing that you want to share with the group, I'm absolutely happy to take those questions as we go.
Fabulous. Now, thanks, Daisy. Thanks. So, yeah, contact tracing. QR, I've learnt that stands for quick response codes. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about what you've got to say in terms of contact tracing and where QR codes and quick response codes fit into this as a really good measure of support.
Absolutely, and we'll get there. QR codes, and as we mentioned before, we'll jump into QR codes in a minute, but QR codes is something that we use very frequently. So at the supermarket, you know, to scan the items, we use QR codes, and a lot of people think about QR codes and link QR codes to barcodes. So I want to get to that in a few moments, so we understand from the simple point of view of the technology what it is and how it works. Now, to get to QR codes, though, Kathy and team, we have to talk about contact tracing, which is the reason why we are mentioning QR codes so much in the context of technology to assist businesses. And in simple terms, contact tracing is the process of identifying people who might have been in contact with an infected COVID person. And of course, the process of identifying those people if they were in contact with somebody else. It is very important to understand that at this point in time, contact tracing is one of the most important tools we have in our toolbox to deal with COVID. So yes, there is the wash your hands. Yes, there is the hand sanitizer. Yes, there is the social distancing. But if things go wrong, the best way to keep things in check is by using contact tracing. And of course, that's one of the reasons why we're hearing about this so much. Now, 1/3 of all the COVID cases that we've had in South Australia came as a result of a close contact with somebody that was infected. So please keep that in mind. This is how important contact tracing is. Now, a lot of people have asked me in the past, well, if we're talking about close contact, what does that mean? What does close contact mean? And of course, we have heard thousands of times 1.5 meters. We need to stay away from 1.5 meters from the other person. So in short, if we really want to define close contact, if we are within 1.5 meters of a person that is infected for a period of 15 minutes or longer, we are at a very high risk of contracting COVID-19. There are other considerations for those of you that are tourism operators in a way of wine tours, for example, or that involves having people into a close environment, or a cellar perhaps, or as we mentioned before, a wine tour that you have people in a bus. If you have somebody in a confined place for over 2 hours, then your risk increases. Yes, you still need to be 1.5 meters away from the other person, but if you have people for so long in such a place, there are the possibility that people will touch something that has been contaminated and things like that. So contact tracing, of course, when we think about the advantages of contact tracing, not only that it allows us to track who perhaps had the virus and who they talked to, were in contact with, but also it helps us manage, identify and assess our response to that. So that's why governments, and of course we will talk, I'm sure that question will come up, but governments have come up, especially New South Wales. New South Wales led the way by developing a QR code tool, and we might have some questions in the end as to how mandatory it is, who needs to use it and whatnot. So happy to go through that a little bit later. But there is a lot of different platforms out there nowadays offering QR codes. So it's very, very important that we understand what is it that we need, what are our requirements, what are our responsibilities around QR codes. Look, very recently in my house, I had to replace the solar system in my house. So bear with me, this is going somewhere. And it was overwhelming, the amount of suppliers that were out there providing me information about solar panels. It was overwhelming. Some people offering a solar panel almost identical to the other one with a difference of 50%, 60% in cost. I feel that the QR code world is becoming a little bit of that. Too many players in the market, everybody claiming to do this or that, but there is a lot of misinformation that is going out there. So the purpose of this meeting is that we can clarify all of those questions for you. Now, Kathy, did you want to say something? No? Perfect, perfect. So
yeah, you're all good, keep going.
Awesome. So from the point of view of QR code, what is a QR code? Very, very simply, we've said that we've used QR codes everywhere. QR code, Kathy, as you mentioned, stands for quick response. And this was developed back in 1994. This is not a history lesson, but just so we understand that the idea behind this was to get a code that was very, very simple to read. So questions usually come as to why didn't we keep using barcodes? Well, simply barcodes are one-dimensional, so you can only scan the barcode one way, where the QR codes allows for the QR code reader, and we'll talk about what options that we have in terms of readers nowadays. It can capture the information that you need from almost any angle, so you don't need to necessarily be in one specific angle. And a QR code is just simply a code that contains some information that is translated by the QR code reader in order to provide you with information or to take you, which is the case for QR codes for contact tracing, into a web location. And we will talk a little bit more about that. Now, we did mention there are a range of different options out there. There are a lot of different things that you can do with the data, but I want you to start thinking about your business. I want you to start thinking about why is it important to me to do contact tracing? Why is it important to me to use a QR code or technology? And more importantly, if we think about capturing information about some of the customers that are going to be coming to us, or even employees or suppliers that we are in contact with, what are my requirements? Do I just need a QR code to understand who came to me, or do I need a QR code to be able to do a little bit more? Now, Rapid, how do we come into play? Look, we started back in 2001. Our managing director, Tim Johnson, was part of Amcor, which is now known as Aurora Glass. He was one of the managers at that business, and very quickly identified that there was an opportunity to create, there was a gap in the market in terms of onboarding employees and making sure that the information those employees had were accurate and was delivered in a timely manner to ensure that we could protect those workers as part of the work that they needed to do. So that's how Rapid Induct was born. Our first product dated back 2001. And from there, we have developed a range of different solutions to assist with different components of your business. So even though today we're talking very specifically QR code and we want to answer all of those questions, every single business that is out there have different requirements, whether that might be for a wine tour operator. And I think, you know, the issues that I had before and the incidents that I had doing tours. So if we want to manage incidents, we have something for that. If we want to manage inductions for our employees, so the onboarding process, we have that. Managing risk or managing visitors on site, all of that is included under the one umbrella. As we mentioned before, we very proudly South Australian. We, at the moment, we employ 80 South Australian in our office. Support services is here in Adelaide, in Franklin Street, at our head office, as we mentioned before. So we are 100% not just Australian, but South Australian. I am adopted, I get that, but my heart is most definitely here. From the point of view of Rapid itself, there are a few things that I want to mention. QR code is one of our 7 solutions. So we do allow you to add or remove things at any point in time. There's no cancellation fees, there's no change fees in any shape, way, or form. And of course, not only we provide you with the solution, which the one that we will be reviewing today is QR codes, but we also have a team to take your calls if you had any questions, if you needed any support at any point in time. All right. We will be talking, I'm just navigating through the chat, and of course, I understand that one of the concerns that we might have is privacy and security of the data. So we will be navigating through that, and that is a very important and key component of any QR code solution that you might want to implement as part of your business.
Yeah, fabulous, Easy. If we could touch on that, and also about how does the QR code exactly work? So in terms of our consumer, putting ourselves in our consumer shoes, based on what sort of phone they need to have, and does it link to an app? Or I'd love you to talk through, you know, really strip it down to basics and to how that functionality works for a consumer. Naturally, we all have consumers across a wide range of demographics. So appreciate if you could unpack that one, having a look through that chat function as we work through it as well. So that would be great.
Most definitely, Kathy. Thank you very much for that. When we talk about QR code, so very specifically the option RapidGo, which is our QR code solution, it is important to mention that QR codes back in the days, you needed a special QR code reader, where today that is not needed. Depending on the type of phone that you're using, QR code, of course, is supported by iPhones or Android phones. So it's very, very common nowadays for things to have a QR code. And depending on how new or old your phone is, so most phones will have a QR code reader inbuilt within the camera on your phone. So we don't need much more than just the phone and the camera on the phone to be able to access the QR code information. In some instances, if you have a phone, so if I refer specifically about iPhones, just to give you guys an example, if you have a phone that is older than the iPhone 7, we might need to have a QR code app in our phone in order to be able to scan the QR code. Now, anything iPhone 8 moving forward, or let's say 4 or 5 years ago, the camera on the phone will automatically read that QR code for you, so you need nothing other than your phone. We might actually use my phone as an example moving forward, if we have time towards the end, Kathy, to actually illustrate how simple that process is.
That would be fabulous. It'd just be great to talk through our audience with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it is also important to mention, of course, that you touched on a very important point, which is, do we need an app? And the answer to that question is, well, depends, really. Depends on who do you go with. We believe at Rapid that simplicity will 100% of the time win the battle. You don't want to make things too difficult for your customers if you want to capture some information from them. And of course, privacy is another important component that we need to discuss and talk about. But from the point of view of simplicity, if we think about our solution, you only need the camera on your phone, which will immediately take you into the sign-in option. And we can configure the process or the requirements that are incorporated as part of this process. So it's not just perhaps capturing the name and the time when the person sign in. We can expand that and adapt that to our requirements. We can configure the Rapid application to do what you want and to capture the information that you need, and that can be specific to your business, right? From the point of view of what the QR code does, automatically after you read the QR code, that will take you into a web browser. That web browser will be the key for you to go through and complete the process. It looks as if it was an app, Kathy, so automatically comes on your phone. It's optimized to fit within your phone, so you don't need to be scrolling up or down or moving across. It is all optimized to fit within your screen perfectly fine, which makes things really, really simple. And of course, the advantage of this, it is maybe important for me to mention South Australia, and Kathy, we were going to get there at some point in time. I'm sure there's a lot of questions about that, and I can see, of course, questions that are coming through the chat. Teresa asked if RapidGo is compatible with the state government QR code database that has been introduced December 1st. And when we talk about databases and QR codes, I have to mention, of course, that the government of South Australia did mention that they will be introducing a QR code option that is going to be available for businesses in South Australia. We don't have a lot of information as to exactly how that will look like, or what exactly would include or whatnot, but we do have a little bit of information on New South Wales and what they did. As we mentioned earlier, they started the whole initiative of QR codes, and what we do know is that New South Wales, we can bring a little bit of information later, but New South Wales is has that option that businesses in New South Wales can use if they register with them, but it's not mandatory to use that QR code solution. What is mandatory is to use a solution. That is very important. There's been information in the news to say, oh, it will be mandatory for some hospitality businesses to use a QR code, and that is a true statement. What is not correct is that it will be mandatory, at least not in New South Wales. We don't know what's going to happen here in SA, but in New South Wales, the only thing that is mandatory is that you use a contactless solution, that you use technology in order to complete your contact tracing or your sign-in option for your customers, employees, and suppliers. Different states, though, have got slightly different requirements. So if you go to Victoria and compare it to New South Wales, the requirement is slightly different. We can talk about that later if we want to. But that is sort of unpacking a little bit, because I know that there are a lot of questions about government initiatives and whatnot. So from the point of view of government and being compliant, we just need to make sure that we use a contactless solution. We need to make sure that if the customer does not have a phone, so they don't have the ability to do the sign-in process themselves, that we have an alternative, so we can sign them in. We can sign them into the database rather than they doing them themselves, and that needs to be electronic. And there are a few other conditions in there that vary depending on the state. So not a lot of information, but you're welcome to use any database so long you have access to that data yourself. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. I know that there's a lot of questions about that. I'm anticipating that that's going to take a good portion of our session, but we can definitely expand on that a little bit later.
Absolutely. Thanks, Easy. And just as we get more clarity, as we move closer to the 1st of December, I think, which the government have announced will be the date that they'll release their platform. As we get closer to that and as the detail lands, please be rest assured we'll share that with our community as well. Easy, can we take a few steps backwards and back to the basics with a QR code? So how is it generated? How, someone puts perhaps a smartphone up and scans that. Talk us through, from an organisation's perspective, how they would implement such a system, and then perhaps how then the customer would interact with that. And I feel if we go through that process, it might start to answer some of these questions that we've got going in our chat function too.
Absolutely. Look, good point. From the point of view of the QR code in the case of Rapid and most platforms, I have to say, the QR code is generated by the system that you are using. So it's literally just converting some information that will point that phone to go into a web address, right? So that's what a QR code is. From the point of view of the QR code itself, the way that the customer will interact, and maybe Kathy, just very briefly, just going to try to connect my phone to the screen, see if we can work through these and explain things a little bit better. So I'm not going to go through necessarily the entire process, but
Fabulous.
I want to give you guys.
So just quickly, Easy, so you sign up to a platform and then a company, it generates a QR code that a company could print out and display. Is that correct?
Absolutely, and I can show that in the system, how simple that is. So it's a very, very straightforward solution.
Yeah, so that's all linked to the platform. Perfect. That answers a few questions I think we have there.
Absolutely. And it's all linked to the platform. There's really nothing you have to do. Automatically, the system will create that QR code for you that you can simply download and display anywhere as part of your site or your bus or your pub or whatever the case it might be. So it's very straightforward. From the point of view of the QR code, we need, and of course you can tweak this depending on how fancy we want to be. The system will issue a poster very, very similar to what you have on screen at the moment. So again, click, that poster will come up. You can download, print it, and position that anywhere you like. It's an exercise that will take you no time at all. From the point of view of how to use it though, I've got my phone on the screen. Kathy, can you confirm that you can see my phone okay? Yeah, wonderful. This is an iPhone 10. So if I was to use the camera on my phone, automatically that will point out at the QR code, and you can see how it says open Rapid Global in Safari, and this will take me straight into the page that asks me for different information. This is where I said we can configure this using Rapid in any way you want. Now, please keep in mind that there are options in the market that are quite restrictive in terms of what are the things that you can do, or simply not allowing you to configure or reconfigure this information in any shape, way, or form. With RapidGo, Kathy and group, we have the ability to tailor this to your business. So we're talking about accommodation. We can have in there questions about if you have children or things like that.
Perfect. So example, if I was a seller door, Easy, I could go, what's the postcode you're coming from, to get an idea of where my customers are coming from.
100%. We can do that, Kathy. We can incorporate. So even though as part of this example here, we have just simply the first form and we have a couple of fields, this is not exactly how yours will look like. So we don't need necessarily a visiting section and select a host. We don't need, certain fields can be just not there. And moving forward, you do have the ability, exactly as you mentioned, to tailor certain questions. So the challenge challenge that you have with all the QR codes out in the market that don't allow you to configure the platform for you is that you can't tailor those sort of questions. So what postcode are you coming from? Or even more, if we're talking about risk, you might want to ask them, have you been in contact with a person displaying flu-like symptoms in the past 14 days? Or have you been interstate? Or have you come from overseas? Or whatever questions that might be relevant to you. But if you want to take it one step further, Rapid will provide you with the possibility, and again, I go back to my times as a tour operator, but I go back to my times and I go, you know what, if I'm capturing information about people that will be on my bus, maybe I want also for them to see a little bit of information about how can I conduct this safely. So please be at the bus 10 minutes before the departure time to ensure that everybody is on board. Please make sure that if you're not feeling well, you do this. In case of an emergency, we'll do this or that. So we can not only capture information from that person, but we can also deliver information to them. Another very important component related to RapidGo or our QR code solution, if we compare this to other options out there, is notifications. So RapidGo will provide you with the ability to receive notifications anytime, not only anytime somebody reports that they have arrived, if you want to go to that extent, of course, but you can also have specific notifications that will highlight things for you. For example, Kathy, if we have a question saying, have you been in contact with a person displaying flu-like symptoms? And the answer to that question is yes. Maybe you as a business might want to take some action in terms of that. So you will receive a notification saying this has happened or that has happened. So notifications can be configured. And if I take this one step further, the data itself. I saw in the chat that someone mentioned, is there compatibility between the data of yours and the data from the government? You don't need to have two. You only need to have one set of data or a database that gives you and the government, if needed, information about who you had on site as part of your business. So you don't need to have two. Very important to understand that. With Rapid, the database is yours. So Kathy, when you mention the postcode scenario or COVID questions or any type of questions, that database will live with you. You can see it, you can manage it at any point in time. With all the platforms, the information might bypass the client completely and go straight to government, or might not necessarily be all accessible to you. So I'm just talking about those differences that perhaps might give you that edge to use technology, not just for understanding contact tracing, but it might give you that advantage as a business to understand that you've had more people from Unley than you had from Norlanga as part of your business. So you do have a range of options that you can incorporate in here.
That's fabulous. Thanks, Ezzy. And we've had one question that comes up here in relation to caravan parks. In a manual world at the moment, many parks are asking for 14 days prior and 14 days after travel plan. So I'm assuming with the customization, that's all stuff a customer can tweak that platform and tweak those questions to suit the needs of their organisation.
Absolutely, most definitely. So the platform is highly configurable, and we can add in there whatever information we need. And Kathy, look, something that is perhaps not necessarily a way that people are using this, but you can go to the extent, look, the QR code, the initiative is really for when the person comes onto your side, right? We're talking about the caravan park, and you want for people registering at reception to scan that QR code and tell you, I have not been in contact with people before or after. So you can tailor questions any way you want. But if for whatever reason, Kathy, one of your members want to send the QR code as an attachment to information that is sent as part of the booking, as part of the registration, you could actually get information about that person as part of QR code and COVID questions or additional questions just in advance. So if we attach that QR code to an email and ask them to scan that QR code, the process of signing will occur. So we do have great flexibility when it comes to how do we want to configure the platform and what do we want to do. From the strict point of view of COVID, Kathy and everybody, it's very important for me to mention that every requirement from every state in the country, WA hasn't got one yet, but every other state, the Rapid solution covers not only the basics, but absolutely everything. So we want to talk about privacy in a moment, because I know that that is something that everybody wants to know. And of course, it's one of the requirements that the government has included in the package.
Fabulous. And so what about, I've got a group of guests coming, a group, is it individual, every individual scans that QR code, I'm assuming, because that's obviously effective for that contract tracing ability, or do you have group sign-ins? It's just a couple of questions that are coming up, if we could get some clarity around that.
Yeah, look, that is a fantastic question, and it does feel like a little bit of an overkill. Just recently, I went playing bowling, and I had to do everything on a paper base, and the requirement was everybody need to sign in. It was me and my family, so we had to do. Each one of us needed to sign in that paper book, and of course, we understand what the challenges are around paper, but it's not an option. The governments are asking for technology, contactless solutions, right? From the point of view of if we want to capture the information as a group or as an individual, that definitely will have to do with the government requirements. Rapid though, so RapidGo, the RapidGo solution does allow you to add questions in there to say, are you the primary visitor in a group? And then can you add the names of others? So if we want to add information to the platform, we could do that. In an ideal scenario, Kathy, of course, we would want one entry per person, but there are ways around that, of course. Beautiful.
Fabulous. Thanks for that, Andy.
Not a problem. Now, very, very quickly, and we touched on this just before, but just to conclude this, so from the point of view of using the RapidGo solution, it is as simple as asking your customers or suppliers or even your employees, if that was a requirement, of course, of the government, just to scan a QR code that will be displayed at different sections within your organization, within your business. That will take them into the details section, but it's very important for me to mention that this section, if you have used the system once, it will remember you. So yes, the first time I will need to enter in there Ezequiel Gonzalez, but if I have to use this again because I am a repeating customer, my details will preempt it in there, so I don't have to do it the second time, which makes things a little bit easier. Then we have those screening questionnaires, and you can add screening questionnaires. Any types of questions, as we mentioned, can be captured there. And outside that, we do have things like capturing photos of the person. If for whatever reason your business required to have a photo of the person that is signing in, we can do that using the technology. As we mentioned, we can't deliver inductions if that was required. We could have notifications assigned to this at any point in time. Emergency evacuation plans, emergency process, all of these. So when we're talking about accommodation more specifically, so if you want to include an emergency evacuation plan for them, that can be included in there. And as we mentioned before, you don't have to do it, but it can, this critical safety information can most definitely be added to the solution. After that, and the process can be as simple or complex as you want to make it, but after that, of course, the person will be notified that they completed the sign-in process. You will have full access to a dashboard that we will review in a minute that will tell you exactly how many people have completed the sign-in process and whatever information that would have come from them. Now, some states, more specifically Victoria, New South Wales, and South Australia at the moment, and and Queensland, the requirement is just to know when they actually came into your site. It doesn't necessarily require for them to sign out. Victoria does, though. They do want for you to let them know for how long the person was with you. So we do have the option to sign out and notify when that sign out took place. We can also get the system to sign them out automatically if you prefer for that to be an automated process for you. Now, from the customer point of view, if I can summarize that, it is as simple as using the camera, scanning a QR code, answering some questions, and that's the end of story. A minute, maximum 2, sees that process finish. Very, very simple. But as important as that process is that you have access to that data 24/7. We have specific dashboards that you can access on your computer, on your mobile device, on your tablets if you need to, just to understand who is on site at any given time and pull that information real time. Also, very importantly, if you are a business in accommodation and you need to do an evacuation, you can use technology to allow you to initiate that evacuation in a way that if you have people that are registered on site, we could, by pressing one button, send an SMS notification to everybody on site to advise them that the site is being evacuated and ask them to go to the master point. Now, after they get to the master point, they can reply to that SMS with the word save, and your evacuation list will be completely updated real time. So you have full access, full control over the solution, the configuration, the notifications, and the evacuation process if that was needed. Contact tracing. Contact tracing, as we mentioned before, the process of understanding who was exposed potentially to the virus is key. So the Rapid solution not only will give you access to the platform, which will allow you to see who is or was on site at any point in time. And what I will do very quickly to give you an idea is I will jump into a live system. Kathy, can you confirm that you can see that page okay? It's got the Tixa logo.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Wonderful. So this is a dashboard for RapidGo. So in essence, you as the client will at all times, real time, will have access to who has visited your site. So we can get a little bit of information into this dashboard. I'm going to expand this from today. This is a sample package, very important for me to mention. There's no real data in here. As a matter of fact, you will see Mike Tyson and Barack Obama and whatnot. I can assure you they have not used this package. But as part of the solution, you will have, of course, full information as who has visited your site, at what time they arrived, at what time they left, and a lot of other information about those visitors if you needed to capture that information. So if we wanted to capture photos, for example, that will be included within the solution. You see, you have that handsome guy in there. You have a range of different information as you want to capture that information in the platform. This is available not only on your computer as we are demonstrating now, but it's also available on your mobile devices if you wanted to see information about your visitors real time. You can also, for the purpose of contact tracing, of course, select specific times. So if at any point in time government comes to you and says, I just want to know who you had on site between October the 1st and October the 5th, automatically we can filter that information to be specific to those dates, and it will mark if you had anybody on site. All of that information can be sent to them as an Excel or CSV file, or can be sent to them just by printing out the list. You will also have that, from a business point of view, of course, is very helpful. You will also have the ability to see some analytics components associated to your database. So from a tourism operator, you might want to know if you're getting people, more visitors at certain time during the day. So the platform will give you that option to review if you're getting more people at 9 o'clock compared to 3 o'clock, and manage your workforce, manage your operation based on that data. So it's very clean, it's very simple to access the information, and you can do that as part of your computer or your mobile devices. Now, conscious of time, I just want to mention very quickly something that I know is very, very important. I've seen a couple of things on the chat come through, and I haven't read everything, of course, in the chat, Kathy. So I will open this to the group for questions in just a moment. But from the point of view of security, one of the main requirements when it comes to security, and one thing that I will encourage you to look for if you are considering, of course, using a QR code solution different to Rapid. Of course, I won't encourage you to use anything different to Rapid, but is to check for privacy and security. So Rapid, we use, I had a page earlier in the piece of clients. We have over 700 clients using the solution, and that goes from very large organizations, the likes of McDonald's, the likes of A&P Capital, Vicinity, and so on, to very, very small organizations with 1 or 2 employees using Rapid in some capacity. But I mentioned this to highlight 2 things. One is how highly configurable the tool is for you, but 2, that we are trusted by different organizations in different industries, irrespective of how big or where they are located. All of the data captured using any Rapid module is hosted in the country, is hosted in Australia. We use AWS or Amazon Web Services to host that data. The data center is in the Sydney region. And I don't want to complicate this with too many technical things, but we do have 2 separate servers, and we duplicate the data to ensure that if anything, and they are completely different locations within the Sydney region, but if anything happens to one data server, we have all of the data duplicated in another one, so you will always have the information 24/7, no matter what happens. There is no need to install applications onto your phone. We do have an app for you as a system administrator to review the information if you want to do so, but if you prefer not to have an app on your phone, you're welcome not to have it, and you can access all of this information online, as we mentioned before. Lastly, not only the data is safely stored in Australia using AWS, but we also protect the data, of course, in transit using SSL 256-bit encryption. So nobody other than yourself has access to that information. And of course, if you want to share that information with government because it's needed, you will have access, and you can print reports at any point in time. Rapid Global does not use your information for any purpose different to the intended purpose. So the data, as a matter of fact, belongs to you. It's not ours. If you're 10 years down the track, you choose to stop using Rapid, you can take that data with you. It's not our data to use. There is a lot of concerns around privacy and security now that everybody thinks that you know, they can create a QR code and use it for contact tracing. There's a lot of concerns about privacy, where the data is stored, if it's in Australia, how is that data going to be used? Is it going to be used for marketing purposes of loyalty programs and things like that? So rest assured that with Rapid, we do not use the data for absolutely anything other than what you want to use that data for. So that data is yours. We only make our platform available to you so you can manage the information 24/7. Now, Kathy, it's been a lot of me talking, and I know that there are a lot of questions. So why don't we open the session for the group and start taking some questions and answering some questions? What do we think?
Yeah, absolutely. That's been a great lot of information you've shared. Thanks so much, Easy. One quick question while we are talking about data, and you really covered on how it's stored and how we can access it. What about consumers if they have privacy concerns? How are you seeing people manage that?
The line wasn't great. Let me just make sure that I understood that question correctly. So your question, Kathy, is what happens if our customers have concerns about the privacy of their information? Is that sort of what the question was?
Correct. What if they have privacy, concerns about their inputting their contact details?
Absolutely. And look, as part of I believe, Kathy, that that's all to do with how do we communicate with our clients as to the reason why we're capturing this information, but more so what is happening with that information, where is that information going, even though it's been in the news quite a bit that, you know, the reasons why QR codes are important, who is using it, and so on and so forth. I do believe that it's important to alleviate those concerns for your customers, and you can use the poster that we have just simply to add, to communicate to your customers a little bit of a blurb around the reasons, and to ensure that that data is not going to be used for any purposes other than such and such and such. But it's more so the communication with our customers that is relevant or important in terms of that.
Sure. And sort of the next question, and this might answer a lot of people's questions on the group chat as well. We're yet to know the detail, obviously, on the government's platform that they will be releasing. But, you know, RapidGo is not a South Australian company, proudly South Australian, but a national company, and you've got clients nationally. What is the benefits, you know, and you'd have clients in New South Wales who there's the New South Wales government system. What are the benefits to a company to, you know, why is it worthwhile for them using a third party supplier such as yourselves?
Absolutely, and that is a great question, Kathy. I believe I will expand a little bit on that question, because I believe there's a couple of things that are playing a part into why businesses are choosing one versus the other. One of them is a lot of misinformation out there. So I've heard people saying, oh, but I have to use the government one. And in New South Wales, for example, it is not the case. So you can use any, the government is okay with you using any platform, so long it meet the minimum requirements that they have. From the point of view of the advantage of using third-party applications, and you know, we could use real examples outside of QR codes, but mainly when we talk about what is it that you want this platform to do for you. So if the only thing that we want, Kathy, perhaps is to tick a box to say, I am meeting with government requirements, and that I don't want to see the information. I don't need to be involved in that. I just want for people to scan the code and that goes somewhere else. You might be okay with the government option. Now, if we are anyhow troubling our customers with, you have to scan your code, we might use that data for more. We can use technology to help us maximize efficiencies or maximize our time. So we can definitely use that QR code to get them to get the customer not only be sent information, but also to obtain the information about the customers and use that for our benefit. So not just contact tracing, which of course is the reason why we're all talking about this today, but also, do I need to understand when my clients are coming to me, when my customers are coming to me? Do I need to understand, as you mentioned, where are they coming from? And do I need to send a separate notification to them to get that information? So do we need to go multiple steps? Do we want to capture just the one? But if I take, Kathy, this one step further, of course, we're talking about QR codes, and yes, it's relevant. But earlier in the piece, we mentioned that different businesses might have different requirements. And in New South Wales, we have a large number of clients that are actually using RapidGo, not any other platform, in order to keep a record of their clients. Keep that in mind. But depending on the type of business you are, you might need more than just a QR code system. You might need to manage, as we mentioned before, your staff and simplify your existing onboarding process. Or you might need, if you have incidents on site and you want to gain a better understanding on what those incidents are and manage those incidents moving forward, you might need another solution to it. Why choose different platform? One problem, earlier in the piece, we spoke about how technology is helping us, but the fact that we have so many different options out there sometimes get us buying different platforms, and very quickly we have 13 different logins to access different parts of our information. Rapid allows to capture all of the information in one place. Does that sort of help with that question, Kathy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it does. And I hope that helps clarify for our audience today as well. So, you know, obviously the government are working on a contact tracing application or platform for the state. And then, you know, there's third-party suppliers such as RapidGo who, you know, have additional applications that are really beneficial for a business beyond potentially what the government will be offering as well.
100%. And look, I'm just going through the chat, Kathy, and I know that we are at time now, so I'm sure that some people might need to move on. But from the point of view, I can't see costing in here. So very important for me to clarify, RapidGo does not limit you in any shape, way or form in terms of the numbers of visitors. So you can have 20, you can have 100, you can have 1 million, and you will not pay any additional monies towards your QR code solution. It is a very straightforward costing structure is $300 per year, which equals $25 per month if you want to see it on a monthly basis, and that gives you access to everything that we have discussed today, all the configuration, the platform, the dashboard, all of that is available for you just as part of that. Again, it's not related necessarily to the number of visitors that you have. It's more so on a QR code per QR code base, so or per site base, I should say.
Absolutely. Now, a couple of questions have just talked about the collecting of data and if it goes against privacy laws, if you're collecting for any other purposes. How are companies that are using applications such as yourself that are using and doing questions that aren't just for visitor check-in or contact tracing, how is that being messaged so it doesn't go against privacy laws? I've seen Tanya's written a question around that, and just going down the end, Danielle as well, just about the concerns about capturing that additional information. How does that work within, you know, privacy for the customer?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. Look, from the point of view, and of course, I'm not a lawyer, so this is not legal advice in any shape, way, or form. But from the point of view of legislation, what is important, of course, is that the person that is providing the information, first of all, are doing that voluntarily, so that we are not using information that they have given us, and we are entering that information into the system without them knowing. So from the point of view of the law, so long the person is voluntarily entering that information into the system, we are clear in that regards. From the point of view of communicating the use, so the other important consideration in terms of law is what is that data is going to use for. So if we start using email addresses or personal information for the purpose, for example, of marketing and things like that without the consent of the person, then we will be in breach of the law. But I understand, of course, that that might not necessarily be what we're referring to. If we wanted to capture some information for the purpose of marketing, the only thing that we need to do in terms of law, but I encourage you to talk to your legal team or a lawyer if you want to clear that. But the only thing that you need to do, of course, will be to very specifically ensure that the customer understands what that data is going to use for, and so long, and an acknowledgement section, and so long they read that information, acknowledge it, and submit it, they have been provided with the information as to what that data is for. So the RapidGo solution and beyond that, Rapid Access as well, does provide you with the platform, so you can not only create any type of questions and forms and communication, including a very short 3 pages, 2 pages, 1 page about information about the business and what you're going to be doing with the data if you need to. So it's highly configurable, so we can communicate to them what are we going to be doing with that data, but we also provide the ability to have quick acknowledgements to say, yeah, I agree with this, such and such. And if you think about it, Kathy, and everybody, that happens. So if you go to the App Store and you want to download an app, you just need to click on acknowledgements and say, yeah, I understand that this is going to happen this way and that way. So we just need to be able to do that, which we have the capability of doing.
Sure, thanks, Ezzy. And obviously we do have a partner in Woolman's Lawyers. They offer a complimentary consult line to our members. I'm pretty sure it's a 15-minute consult. But guys, I will reach out to them to seek just some further information if they have a fact sheet that we can share with our community as well. Well, guys, I'm just conscious of time, and we've had a lovely informative session today. I know I feel a lot more confident and informed about the knowledge with your sharing your knowledge, Easy, about QR codes, how they work, and how systems have a wide range of capabilities within that. Like we mentioned, the government will be releasing a contact tracing platform that could be mandatory for some, if not all, businesses. As that information, we're still seeking clarity on that, and the detail on that system. As it lands, we'll be sure to message that to our whole community. In the meantime, RapidGo have provided a generous offer to all our members to trial the software, and we will share that through a post this session through an email as well, so you guys can all have a look at it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thanks, Easy. You've been so generous with your time and insight and knowledge sharing today. And I hope everybody has a lovely day.
Kathy, just very quickly, I want to thank you as well for organizing this, every member to give us a little bit of your time for it. And if you do need any additional information, we are here to help. So feel free. Kathy, I think we're going to be following up with an email, but perhaps the link to this session. So if you need to get in contact with us, feel absolutely free to do so via email, or just give us a call to the office. That's not a problem. Kathy, once again, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your week. And everybody, thank you very much for your time as well.
Great. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.